The Diner is open for business, being released to you in late March of 2025. Breaking news: Snow White deservingly flops in the theaters, while a Looney Tunes movie undeservingly flops despite rave reviews. This is episode 5 of Burgers and Fries at the Diner. And, of course, we like to talk mainly pop culture, entertainment, music, and sometimes politics, too. I'm Desert Coyote 22, but you can call me Anthony if you wish. With me on this edition, we have the Minnesota man who was gathered here today to get through this thing called life. It's Thriller Wolf, a.k.a. Greg. How you doing?
Doing good.
Doing good. All right. And for the first time, introducing, hopefully not for the last time, if you split two of these things, it'll cause a nuclear explosion in his home state of Texas. We have Atomical. How you doing?
Hello.
Welcome aboard. Glad to have you in. You have a lot to say on one of the topics we're going to do, which is, of course, about the Looney Tunes movie and what's going on there. But in political news, people are angry at Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And in other news, water is wet. Is that about right, Adam?
Water is wet. And yeah, people I think are angrier at Elon Musk in particular than ever before. I mean, you just got to look at the amount of people that are going into damaging people's Cybertrucks and other Tesla cars or vandalizing them, doing whatever else.
You know what? It's funny because it wasn't that long ago when we were complaining about the gas prices and we were saying all of these policies are going to lead to higher fuel costs. Everybody was like, oh, just get an electric car. And everybody was pushing Teslas as you should all buy those. But now that the head of that company is siding with the Mango Mussolini, all of a sudden, oh, no, we hate this guy. He's an evil capitalist. Like, dude, he was one of you like 2 years ago.
Yeah. Luckily to the Tesla car owners, there's cameras all over the exterior of those cars, so they could get caught pretty easily. I mean, my God, they're reminding me of some of the January 6th rioters who, as you said before, barged into the Capitol building without wearing a mask.
Right. I mean, I've been to the Capitol. There is heightened security up the ass, even for when tourist groups from schools are going there. Like, you have no idea how much security is over there. So they probably have cameras all over. And yeah, it was the height of COVID. But this was before the Delta variant happened, when everybody got even more nuts. Remember that?
Oh, yes.
Nope.
Oh, come on, Greg. In your state, your governor was making a hotline allowing people to snitch on people who were breaking COVID rules.
Yeah, that's right.
Sounds ridiculous.
That was
Tell me about it.
ridiculous. Like, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. But anyway, right. Teslas all have these cameras, so it's very easy for these people to get caught. And it's so funny when somebody, does tire streaks over gay pride crosswalks in the streets. That's considered vandalism. But now it's no longer considered vandalism if somebody damages someone's personal Tesla.
Bullshit.
We can talk a little bit of politics, and surely enough, we do bring up some stuff in the Discord server, but we're trying to be more about entertainment, especially this movie that was officially released to cinemas last Friday, March 21st. And I already released a video on it. I did see it because I was curious on how they were going to mess it up. But we're talking about a remake of a 1937 movie that is still considered timeless, was groundbreaking. It was the movie that made Walt Disney a cultural name and a company juggernaut. So Disney wouldn't be where it is without the 1937 Snow White, correct?
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yes.
Very much so. So one would think that Disney would try and honor Walt Disney's legacy by remaining mostly true to the original film, right?
You would think.
Yeah. But that's completely bullshit.
Nope. This is 2020 Disney we're talking about. This is the company that thinks they're a bunch of activists who stand for feminism, DEI, political correctness, and whatever far left chick tracks they want to envision, right?
Yeah.
Look, and I saw this movie, and literally the opening line it made me think, did they really just go there? Now, the thing is, the king and the queen at the beginning explained to Kid Snow White that the bounty of the land belongs to all who tends it. What does that remind you of?
Socialism?
There you
Communism?
go. So it was even blatant enough that even the BBC mentioned it, saying it seems half the producers wanted to make an old-fashioned tribute to an old fairy tale, and the others wanted to make a revisionist Marxist call to arms.
Oh God, that is never a good thing when making a movie. A creative conflict between two sides, and the results could be uh, messy to say the least.
Right, and this is again for a kids movie. So do we really need to have the Communist Manifesto being sprinkled into a fairy tale about Snow White?
Hell no.
Of course, Walt Disney was, I think, very much anti-communist, and certainly would have hated this.
Nowadays it's 2020 and now they want to slip in stuff that wants to teach us about the evils of capitalism. Really, a company that thanked Chinese concentration camps in the Mulan credits, that's going to lecture us on the evils of capitalism. So what, are we going to get a Snow White Cultural Revolution Happy Meal out of this?
Boo.
Well, I doubt it.
Well, in terms of the live action remakes, I mean, yeah, we're tired of them, but are there any of them that you actually did enjoy?
I would also go right back to the one that really started this trend. The live action CG Alice in Wonderland movie from the likes of Tim Burton and Johnny Depp. I have no fucking idea why that movie did so damn well. It made over $1 billion. We had the DVD of that movie for years, and I still never cared for that movie. It never gave enough of a damn. I just had no interest in that movie, and yet that was the movie that started this entire trend.
I saw it with a chick I was dating at the time, and she was somebody that was actually a fan of the old books. So she wasn't really into that movie either because of all the liberties that Tim Burton was taking. But you said earlier, like, you have no idea why that movie made so much money. It's because it was Tim Burton and Johnny Depp. And that was, at the time, especially in the 90s, a proven moneymaker with that combo. So, I mean, that's what made me want to see it, to be honest. Out of all those live action movies, that one was okay. Maleficent was okay because to me it was Alice in Wonderland with a Tim Burton twist. Maleficent was Sleeping Beauty from her perspective, and that I thought was good. I thought that was okay.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
Cruella was okay. It was her side of the story. It was a twist on her tale. But everything else where they're just trying to, we need to recapture the original. So that means you need to make Ariel black?
How does that work?
Halle Bailey can sing, and to her credit, she did try to sound like Ariel, and she did it graciously. She was cool about it in interviews. She wasn't like Rachel Zegler in interviews where she's like, oh no, the old movie's outdated. It's weird. Like, you should just check out the new movie where she is dreaming of being a girl boss. Like, that just rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
And,
It made things, a bad situation, worse.
So we got there. Now, as it is right now, Snow White in 2025 currently sits at 29% for critical score for top critics, 43% all critics. And then don't let the audience score fool you. Sure, the verified quote unquote audience is 74%. And you look at all their 5-star reviews and they're always like, oh, Rachel Zegler, she's amazing. Gal Gadot, she's amazing. Oh, the dwarves were amazing. Yeah, it was all good. Come on, pretty much the only Snow White that exists in them is whatever these paid Disney shills were snorting.
And as I recall from Clownfish TV pointed out about, there were people at Disney that were paying the critics of that Rotten Tomatoes score to say, hey, can you make the reviews look good or something?
Now, again, when you account for the entire audience score, can you guys guess how low it is right now?
20%?
22%.
I was close.
And again, IMDb, its score currently sits at 2.0. On that same site, Dragon Ball Evolution, that piece of shit film, is 2.5.
Dane.
The Shyamalan Last Airbender movie, that piece of shit, is 4.0. So this movie is lower than those two movies right now.
Damn.
To be lower than Last Airbender in that live action CG Dragon Ball movie is not only insane, it's unimaginable.
Good thing I never saw it.
Now, a user that I saw on CBR's Facebook feed said their family went to see it, and the theater started out packed, and the kids decided they had enough and they wanted to leave by about 45 minutes.
Seriously?
Yeah, this guy said by the time they left, he said it was just one lady with two kids that remained.
Well, that's to me unheard of. Maybe to other people it's not.
It was somebody that said it on the internet, so it must be true. But again, 43 million domestically over the weekend. Does that scream packed theaters to you?
Nope.
Worldwide, it was projected to make 100 million and only came in at 87 million worldwide opening weekend.
When it comes to this movie, I mean, who in God's name asked for this? Who wanted this? I don't think anybody did. I didn't. But this one and Dumbo especially are just ones that, seriously, who asked for this? Nobody. What makes them think people would go to the theaters and see it?
The same woman that says put a chicken in and make her lame and gay.
Maybe not.
Again, this movie did worse than Dumbo. Like, Dumbo was considered like the low mark of the live action remakes. This is doing worse than that.
Disney just keeps failing to realize over and over and over again, not just, the creative mistakes that's turning people off, even more so in recent years, but the fact that audiences have changed. Moviegoers have changed so substantially. I mean, Disney subscribes to the same old Hollywood mindset that thinks that, remake these old legendary movies or making sequels, prequels, whatever other, or reboots or certain adaptations, even from the most ridiculous sources, like give it some high production quality, promote it, it'll be a hit. We know it'll be a hit, so let's do it.
They're proving to no longer be moneymakers. I mean, this is what it has led to. For the most part, the theaters over that weekend were empty. I'm sure you can probably find some AMC theaters with the fancy recliner seats that seat maybe 30 to 50 people, and there's 35 people in there. But the larger theaters were a ghost town. Mr. Pat, the moviegoer of this podcast, who couldn't make today's recording, told us there were 31 people for an IMAX showing over the weekend in an auditorium that probably seats 150 people. So yeah, it's like that meme where Goku and Vegeta are like, let's go fight someplace empty, Vegeta. And it's a showing of Snow White.
They really don't care about the money anymore. They just only care about the message.
Yeah.
Well, they can only do that for so long that it only works when the money is flowing, but now the money is no longer flowing. So now they're basically like, oh shit. So now they pretty much need to take the L at this point. Now, Greg, you saw the new Looney Tunes movie, which we'll get to. You snuck in to see if anyone was at Snow White, right?
Yep.
How many people did you see in that theater?
Only two.
2 people.
Yep.
And what night was this? Was this a Friday night? Was this a Saturday night? What
It
was
was
it?
Thursday night.
Okay, Thursday night. So it was a day before. Like, I saw it on a Thursday. There is no way the Snow White remake can be considered a success.
Yeah.
So yeah, it might be the top box office draw this weekend, but that's not saying much. That's like being the nicest guy in prison. I mean, what's coming out that's really competing with it?
Very, very little or nothing.
Yeah, and I was going to say the Looney Tunes movie.
Well, that came out a couple weeks ago, and a lot of people didn't even know it existed.
Yeah. Oh,
Like, I didn't know it existed until Greg told me about it.
I know the reason
Now,
why.
there is a movie. Oh, wait a minute. Somebody just came out of the wild work. Who might this be?
It's Mikey. And I know the reason why they didn't advertise the Looney Tunes movie.
Well, step right up and tell us why they didn't advertise it.
It is because Warner Brothers themselves didn't want to sell the production rights, or I don't know how that works. They didn't want to advertise the movie because they're too focused on like adult movies or like something that's geared towards adults, and they find that animation and cartoons are not worth it anymore. Indie company ended up picking it up. That's why you barely see any promotions for it.
Well, Greg, what's that word again?
Bullshit.
Adults love the Looney Tunes.
Were originally made for adults. It makes sense. This is like this is probably just as actually it is just as bad as James Rolfe in 1986 as a kid finding out that there is a Transformers movie in theaters at the end of a toy commercial for Transformers.
So there is a movie that is going to come out in 10 days, and this pretty much will blow Snow White out of the theaters. That's going to be the Minecraft movie. And I'm not saying Minecraft is going to be good, but a lot of families and fans of the game are going to go see it.
And kids.
Exactly. Lots of kids love that game. They watch YouTube videos of it. More kids watch YouTube videos of people playing that game than there are actual players of that game. There's no way Snow White is going to survive in the theaters once Minecraft comes in. Those, blue-haired liberals are going to go, "Oh, this movie wasn't meant for you. It was meant for children."
Bullshit.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Lots of kids probably saw this movie and liked it, but we need to quote Walt Disney himself. Disney said, "I do not make films primarily for children. I make them for the child in all of us, whether we be 6 or 60.
Yep.
Yeah. He also said that if you aim only at kids, you're dead. Adults are just kids grown up. And, I think so many people in this industry throughout all of our lifetimes just fail to clearly understand and apply that.
Disney, right. They just need to accept the L and move on. It would have done better if the PR stuff didn't ruin it, which I've talked about already in another video. Now, speaking of a movie that really should have had more promotion, as we've already talked about, Looney Tunes, The Day the Earth Blew Up, currently has a high-ranking score, but it has only grossed $9 million as of this recording on a budget of $15 million. And honestly, we already said it. It was never promoted, as Mikey already pointed out. So, Greg, tell us, how good was this movie?
It was actually really good. Okay, except for one part where you see Daffy Duck twerking and all that.
Maybe I might find it funny.
And Greg, was that movie funny?
Yep. Especially when Daffy Duck, rips off the eyebrows of the mayor.
So it sounds like a good nod to the old Looney Tunes. It seems to capture like the original spirit that we had of it. So, but then of course, again, like I said, I didn't know this movie existed until Greg told me about it. But now there seems to be this rumor that, did I hear this correctly, Adam? That they're going to try to sell, Warner Brothers is going to try to sell the Looney Tunes? Did I hear this correctly?
Yeah, as a rumor, yes. I'm not saying that they will, but we're gonna need to hang on to our toes because considering how Warner Brothers has been treating the Looney Tunes in this case and just lately in general, it does seem like a real possibility that none of us would want.
They're already trying to sell the rights to the movie Coyote versus Acme because that movie was scheduled to come out around like 2021 and it's still not out. Same with The Earth That Stood Still.
I heard that test screenings for Coyote versus Acme were actually very good. Like a lot of people were saying, yeah, release this. This is awesome. And they still have kept it shelved.
Zaslav and other executives at Warner Brothers have been doing this purposely, just doing damn near everything in their corporate power to deliberately assassinate the Looney Tunes art, in an artificial way to force it into becoming unpopular, even though the opposite is true. This is like if Disney were to have the same or even a similar treatment to Mickey Mouse and his gang. And Warner Brothers is just making Disney look like they have a ton of common sense and looking like they are still sane. And we all know about their problems, and we've just talked about some of them.
Well, imagine Warner Brothers selling all the Looney Tunes characters. Okay, so that mean are they going to sell Animaniacs? So that means Warner Brothers is going to sell the Warner Brothers and the Warner Sister Doc.
That's a good question, but I'm not sure if they would. Because
They haven't cared for animation in years, even since when they closed Cartoon Network headquarters 2 years ago, I think.
Network Studios.
Bugs Bunny was synonymous with Warner Brothers. The Looney Tunes was synonymous with Warner Brothers. You already said it. It's like that would be like if Disney decided to sell Mickey and the gang. Like, you're selling the thing that was the start of your identity. And now you want to go away from it because some bullshit executive doesn't like cartoons.
The same executives that are sabotaging Cartoon Network, which I know is already a very absolutely crippling brand, anyway. I really have no idea who they would sell it to. Freaking Amazon. But, Disney is not going to acquire more things. They haven't acquired new things for years. I'm not sure the last one, but certainly the last major one was that gigantic 20th Century Fox acquisition that was, more expensive than when Microsoft bought Activision in Blizzard.
Well, again, with Disney acquiring a lot of stuff, right now it's been proven that everything that they have been acquiring has been losing that company money.
Yeah, well, it wasn't always that way, of course. Marvel.
I know that, but we're talking recent. We're talking the last 10 years.
Yeah, we're talking certainly the last 5 years, most especially. And I don't, since Disney is bleeding money, I don't think they're going to buy anything. They certainly cannot afford to spend billions upon billions of dollars on another acquisition. I think they would be better off selling off some of these things, like the Muppets. Like, sell it back to Jim Henson, but still keep the distribution and theme park rights.
So yeah, it reminds what this thing with David Zaslav, this whole rumor is that it actually reminds me of what happened with WCW. And yeah, it was declining and losing money back in 2001, but it was a ratings draw and it had a rich history that went back. It was synonymous with the Turner Network for a better part of a decade, but it was ultimately the network executives who didn't want any wrestling on their TV networks. So they played a part in getting that show canceled, and the company sold to none other than Vinnie Mac.
That makes me feel even more sorry for Ted.
Once Ted's role was no longer, the guy, then they pretty much were like, no, we don't like the show that you backed up. So Warner Brothers is giving up what is undoubtedly their best known property because David Zaslav is a prick who hates cartoons.
Perhaps. And he says, that there's certain shows that have no value. They took off the Cartoon Network shows. They took off the Looney Tunes shows, all from HBO Max. Bruh, there's an audience that loves these shows that would love to watch them. If I had HBO Max, I would be glad to watch some of those too.
As it is right now, with one of the podcast episode or the podcast clip with the most clicks and views was when we talked about MeTV becoming a classic Cartoon Network. Like, there is a lot of people that want the access to these old cartoons.
Another thing that I've been curious of is why would they even greenlight this movie in the first place just to give it to an indie distributor most of us have never ever heard of?
Maybe they wanted to do a tax write-off. Maybe they wanted it to fail on purpose so they can do it, so they can get it all ready in time for the tax write-off sale or whatever. But no, I'm sure there's plenty of people, if this movie had properly been promoted, somebody would have been like, wait, this isn't the Brendan Fraser movie. This isn't Space Jam 2. It's an actual 2D animated film. Fuck, shut up and take my money. That's what a lot of people would have probably done if they knew this movie existed.
Yeah, I think there's, in recent years, there's been just an even larger audience for, cell shaded, and in this case, a traditionally animated movie, because we have been used to CGI dominating for so very long. I mean, Disney did try to give traditional animation a chance again. They made Princess and the Frog, and it is a good movie, but the problem was they released it 5 days before James Cameron's Avatar.
Right. Well, there's still clearly a market for this stuff
Yes.
because, as Mikey just pointed out, that a lot of the Japanese animated movies are still in 2D.
Yeah. One of the last things I wanted to say, going back to the will Disney buy the Looney Tunes? Not now, but once Bob Iger's successor comes in, because I think whatever replaces that man could hopefully help Disney after they ended up seeing like, oh, the last two CEOs were complete garbage, basically like Christina Miller or the old Cartoon Network presidents, how they had no idea what they're doing until the next one came up and sort of was fixing it little by little. I'm hoping that's what I'll see at both Disney and Warner Brothers.
Just hope it's not Kathleen Kennedy.
Oh, I don't think it will. Hopefully not, but I don't think it will be Kathleen Kennedy.
No, it's gonna be like a younger guy. I hope.
Yeah,
Hopefully, Anthony.
and of course, the other things I would say about this bizarre situation is that we've circled back to where Warner Brothers was when they had the feature animation division in the 90s and 2000s. And, but whereas back then they were just looking so stupid with how piss poor some of these people did their marketing jobs and only got into feature animation because they realized in the wake of the Disney Renaissance that there are several millions of bucks to be made off of animated feature films. This is just one big hardcore assassination attempt on the Looney Tunes franchise, an excuse to get more tax write-offs and possibly justify selling it off, all for more profits, all 100% directly on purpose. There are tons of words to describe this. Extraordinarily mind-boggling, asinine, extremely ludicrous, vicious, really incredibly BS, deplorable, absurd, inexcusable, vile, extremely dishonorable, and disrespectful to all who worked on this movie and other Looney Tunes shorts, shows, and movies. Just motherfucking moronic and foobar. And some of these words are understatement. Fuck David Zaslav and people much like him. They're definitely full of shit.
One movie I'm glad they were able to cancel is that Batgirl movie.
Yeah, Batgirl was, or I don't know. No, it wasn't a Batgirl movie. It was like Batwoman. But it was so awful that they just said, no, we're not going to have this.
Especially with the costume design they have made for her.
Well, come on. It's bat nipples or bust, man.
Hmm.
No bat nipples, no movie.
Uh-huh.
Whatever. So, with that said, the diner is closed. I'm Desert Coyote 22. Thanks for listening. Say goodbye, guys.
Goodbye, guys.
Bye.
Goodbye and good night.